party foul. Yeah, I don't want that getting down in the fan. All right, let's try that again. Welcome to the Foundry. Well, I bought a forklift and it doesn't run. So we're going to take a look at it and see if we can salvage it. If not, we'll scrap it. But whatever the case, it's here now. So here we go. And here it is. It's old. I don't know what model it is. I don't even know what brand is this thing. It's a TCM. I'm not really familiar with that. I believe it's Japanese. It's got a Nissan 4-cylinder LPG engine, which I am somewhat familiar with. I've rebuilt one in a forklift years ago. Don't know much about it. All I know is it doesn't run. They said, so let me give you a little story on it, why I bought it. It's got side shifts, so that's awesome. I bought it because I'm a glutton for punishment. I've already got 3 forklifts that need work, so instead of fixing the ones I got, I thought it'd be a good idea to buy another one to have to work on. So that's what I did. Local church had it. It's painted Christmas colors because they used it for their Christmas charity, and they only used it about 3 weeks a year, so it sat up a lot. And this year, this last Christmas, it didn't start. So they called a forklift company out to look at it, and they said, well, we can't get parts for it. They didn't tell them what was wrong with it. They just said they couldn't get parts for it. So that is code for they don't want to mess with it because there ain't no money. So the church was going to scrap it, and a friend of mine works at the church, and he called me. He said, man, we got this old forklift we're going to scrap. You won't buy it? Because he knows I'm a glutton for punishment, and I buy a lot of old junk. So I went and I paid him scrap price for it. Let's see, it's kind of dark in here, but it does have side shift. And you know, really that's the reason I bought it. My other forklifts are old like this one, but they don't have side shift. So I thought, well, shoot, if it was working before and then it sat up all year and wouldn't start, that's not a big deal, I don't think. The engine's not locked up, and I'm thinking, you know, it's either fuel or spark. It shouldn't be just terribly difficult. They didn't say it had any other problems. Of course, the brakes don't work. I noticed that. Parking brake doesn't work. Pedal brake doesn't work. So, but that's any old forklift, really. So anyway, I bought it, and I told them if I am able to get it running, I would gladly let them use it for their annual charity, because they only need it for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I've got other forklifts, so hopefully I won't be in a bind during that time. And so anyway, we made a deal, and here it is. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over it, check it out, and see. You can see in there, that's an old Nissan. I'm going to start it with the ignition because it looks like that regulator and whatever that thing's called on the LP system there, looks like it was changed out not too terribly long ago. Now I have had dirt, especially if a tank's unhooked or a line underneath is unhooked, I've had dirt daughters get in them lines and stop them up, and that be an issue, but I'll check it out. But I'm going to start with the ignition system and see if we got spark, pull the distributor cap, check for corrosion, cracks, rats chewed through wire, you know, anything. And but I hope I can get it running. If not, if it's a total loss, I'll probably pull this mast off of it and haul the rest to the scrapyard and get my money back, at least minus transport fees. But I got a buddy with a rollback truck. He's the one that hauled it for me. Charged me little or nothing, so I'm not in it very deep. And I need another. The reason I bought it, other than obviously it's got side shift, my others don't have it. I do have a little forklift. Let's see if we can. That is my old Clark, and it's a really neat lift to have around the shop because it's small. It'll get around through my buildings here. There's another Clark parked right behind it that's even smaller. I bought that second one basically for a mobile lift table. And but this first one has been my primary warehouse forklift. It's got pneumatic tires. It goes great on grass, dirt, gravel, so I can run around out on the yard and in the shop. And I've got a big Alice Chalmers forklift out on the yard that's an all-terrain unit. It's just a yard lift. I don't bring it in here much because it's kind of big and awkward. So my little Clark over there, the transmission has blown a seal, and it is puking out fluid out of every orifice. So it's been down, and I've had to borrow the neighbor's forklift to unload freight trucks and things, and then this one come up, and I thought, you know, if I can get this thing going, it may be a lot easier to fix this one than it would be to fix my old Clark. I do intend to fix the old Clark. It's too handy not to. But in the meantime, if this one's pretty easy to fix, I'll use it, and it's got side shift. Lift capacity on this one's about 5,000 pounds versus that Clark, which is 2,000. In fact, there's a tag on here. Let's see if we can see what's going on here. Yeah, 4,600 pounds. It'll pick up, looks like a little over 15 feet. It's a 3-stage mast. So it'll definitely be a handy unit to have around, and if I can help out the church and provide it for them during their deal, if I can get it reliable, I don't want to take it up there and, you know, the thing constantly be breaking down. I don't need all that. They don't either. So I'm going to make sure it's a good, reliable lift and go from there. So I guess I'm about to dig into this thing. Go ahead and pull the distributor cap. All right. That really doesn't look too bad. There's really not much corrosion. I don't see any cracks. Oh, and we have an electronic ignition conversion. So that's kind of nice. Don't have to fool with points like a lot of these 80s model forklifts had. And then next I'm gonna pull the spark plug. Let's see if we're firing. I'm gonna pull this one because it's close. And my ratchet just fell to the floor, but it's all right. You know, the plugs are, they got a little rust on them, it looked to me like. That's never a good sign. I didn't see any water in the oil when I checked it. Huh. Well, that's interesting. We'll have to keep that in mind. I don't think the oil was too high up on the stick. A lot of times water will settle to the bottom, but it's not enough to reach the dipstick, so you don't actually see it on the dipstick. The way you notice it is by a higher oil level. If you're gaining oil, something's wrong. All right, so see if she will spark for us. I don't have a fancy spark tester, or maybe I do. I don't know. I've got so many tools. I don't know what I got anymore. I'll try to set this up where you may be able to see it. See if she'll spark. Yeah, she's sparking. So I'm going to put the spark plug back in, and I guess we'll move over to the fuel side of things and see if we have a fuel issue. All right, as I make my way to the fuel side of the production, first I'm going to check the air filter, make sure rats haven't got up in it. No rats. It's dirty as heck, so I'll be changing that in the event that I get it going. So visual inspection of hoses. That one's a little loose. That one goes to the bottle, so you don't want that one loose. It's got Teflon tape on it, so it may not be actually leaking. We're not talking about a lot of pressure here, so. There's a coolant hose that runs through one side. That keeps this assembly from freezing up, because when you take propane from liquid and convert it to a gas, the process is real cold, and without heat running through this, it'll freeze up and you will have zero fuel flow. I learned that the hard way, like most things I've learned. We have a vacuum line. It looks okay. So I don't see anything. I'm just fixing to hit my head, I know it. So I don't see anything right off the bat that is a red flag. This appears to be the main fuel line to the carburetor or throttle body. I don't know if you call that a carburetor or what. And that all looks good. So yeah, I'm gonna hunt up a fuel bottle and get it up here. And of course my bottle's about empty. I got a little less than a quarter tank. It was running on my other lift, so it should be enough, hopefully. Alright, so I'll turn the valve on, listen for leaks. Okay, I don't hear anything, and more importantly, I don't smell anything. Usually if these hoses are leaking, you'll smell it. So we're gonna see what we got. Boy, this key switch is about wore out. No start condition. Well, that's no good. I smell the gas coming out the exhaust, so I know we got fuel. So I'm going to check the other spark plugs and just rule them out, make sure they're not fouled in some capacity. Now, about the only way I have found to clean a fouled spark plug is with a torch. Now you can use a wire brush or sandblaster or whatever to clean them from carbon buildup, but if it's fouled, that's not going to get, the wire brush and sandblasting is not going to get the oil or fuel contaminants out of the pores of the metal. About the only thing that'll do that is heat. And so I'll let that cool down for a minute. Normally you can tell when you apply the torch to it, the flame color will change as it burns off the oil and gas until it's clean, and then it'll go uniform. So that's basically all you got to do. Then of course you want to recheck your gap and make sure, you know, under that heat it didn't close in on you or spread out or whatever. So I lost some footage here, so I'll bring you up to speed. So after I cleaned the spark plugs, still no go. Next I did a compression test and noticed a couple of cylinders were a little bit low. So that was likely due to stuck rings because the thing sat up for so long. So I went ahead and filled the cylinders up with ATF, let them soak for a few days, and went ahead and bought some new spark plugs and Tried it again, still nothing. So a buddy of mine stopped by and we decided to check the valve train and make sure we didn't have any sticking valves.
Oh, they're definitely closing all the way.
The valves all look good, so I decided to put a few shots of ATF in each cylinder to help boost the compression. And I put the new spark plugs in and we whirled it over, and this is what happened.
No accelerator pumps, they don't do any good, huh?
That's what I'm talking about. The engine got kind of quiet. For having that slack and it looked liquid.
I'm sure those liquids prime. They may be hydraulic, they may prime up.
Heck yeah.
He's idling up just a little bit. I'm having to hold it open. It sounds like a little diesel.
I don't know if that's good. Belt. Yeah, probably that old ass alternator belt.
Yeah, I smell it burning.
Roast it.
It ain't even hitting now.
So it seems to run pretty good, but then we encountered something peculiar. After we ran it, we never could get it to start again, and that's unusual. Usually after it warms up, that helps with compression, should make it easier to start the second time. But we tried and could not get the thing to start again until we accidentally discovered something that I have never seen before. I determined that if we unhooked the crankcase vent tube from the intake, it would crank up, start, and run great. And I've never really seen that before. It might have something to do with the amount of blow-by that it's got because the rings are slightly stuck. The only thing we could figure is that it was forcing that blow-by into the carburetor and leaning out the fuel mixture, and maybe that's why it wouldn't start. I really am not sure. So if you're good with these natural gas or LP engines, drop a comment and tell us what's going on. But that's something I hadn't seen before, so that was interesting. So right now, the only thing keeping me from a test drive is this throttle cable. It is seized up, and the mounts are subpar. I've got to do a little work on it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off and see if I can salvage it. Otherwise, I've either got to modify maybe a motorcycle throttle cable I've got in the warehouse, or order a new one, which I'd rather not do, but we'll do what we have to. So there's a couple ways you can revive an old cable if the housing's not too tore up. I got it here in the vise with the housing down here, and you can take and put penetrating oil into the housing, and a lot of people will set it up on like some kind of little drip and hang the cable, let it drip overnight, and eventually you'll have oil coming out the other end, and then your cable's like really fully lubricated. I don't have that kind of time right now, so I'm just going to put some oil down in here, and on the other end I'm going to do the same thing, and then I'm going to take these pliers and see if I can work the thing back and forth and free it up. and hopefully enough oil. And you can put compressed air, you can do all kinds of stuff to try to revive a cable. This one is, the housing's in questionable condition, so I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'm going to use, this is 3-in-1 fast-acting penetrant, long-lasting. I haven't used this much. In the old days, I used 3-in-1 multi-purpose lubricant, came in the little metal cans, and I always had some of that on a workbench, and it's good for anything from a door hinge to something you're working on. It doesn't matter. I haven't used it in recent years, so we're going to give it a shot. Well, it's going in there good. It's got a pretty good opening here, so it's not as tight as like motorcycle cables. Man, I'm really putting a lot in there. I've got a break in the housing, so it's leaking out. I'm gonna put some in this end. And I'm just gonna try to work the cable. Boy, it's stiff. When you get to where you can work it both ways from one end smoothly, then you're pretty much ready to go. It's crunchy, man. It is. This thing is crunchy. You got to be careful not to yank the whole wire out of it. It's getting better. And I might be able to put a stronger return spring on the throttle body. The one that's on there is not very strong. I can hear it crunching right in through here, and the cable housing is kind of bubbled up right here, which tells me it's probably rusted in there. So it may take a little doing. Pull that. Oh yeah, it's getting way better. I'd be tickled pink if I can salvage this cable. I mean, it's not a big deal. Cables are like 25 bucks or something, but it all adds up. If I went around to every part of that forklift, it's 25 here, 50 there. Next thing I know, I'm in it several $100s. So as much that I can salvage by fixing it, the better off I'll be. Yeah, it's getting way better. I bet I can. So this side has got, if you can see it, a plastic sleeve to protect the wire. This is the exposed portion of the wire where it connects to the accelerator pedal, and it's kind of screwed up and kinked up, and I think it's gonna hamper my ability to use it. So I think I'm gonna try to remove that, or at least some of it. If I can without cutting a digit off, I'll be in even better shape. There we go. Much better. See, this cable is, look at that. I don't know if you can see it, but that sucker is, yeah, that's way better. So I'm going to put a little more oil in it, keep working it, and put it back on there, assess my return spring, and see if I need to get something stronger on the throttle body. And I'm about ready to take this thing for a test drive. Okay, so I have the cable installed, and as you can see, it does work. I had to double up on the spring. The issue is the cable is so long I don't know if you can tell, it's routed right up in there. You got to spiral the thing twice to get it to get back to the throttle body because it's so long. And with the housing being in questionable condition, every bend you put in that cable makes it harder to pull. So that's why I had to double the spring. I got it as best I could. Of course, every bushing in the throttle pedal down here and back down there is worn out. So this is just sloppy, but it does work and it does return. So I'm going to test drive it and make sure it's safe. I don't want the throttle sticking. Another thing I did to get it ready, like in the past video, or I guess the previous segment, whatever, we learned that the reason it won't start is because of the blow-by tube into the intake. So I've capped off the intake and I've run the blow-by tube down out of the way. And I'm going to have to eventually run that blow-by tube all the way. Well, I'm calling it a blow-by tube in jest. It's a crankcase vent tube. But I'm going to have to run that all the way to the ground, or else I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of fumes around the operator. So everything else is in order. So I'm going to install the battery and put the fuel tank on it. And we're going to see how this thing drives. Hide your children, because this thing has no brakes, and I do have a few little inclines I've got to tackle, but I think it'll be all right. Let's give it a shot. Throttle cable seems to be working good. She'll go in gear. Oh, the brakes do work. That's amazing. Fantastic. So not only do the brakes work, they're actually sticking a little bit. They're dragging just a little bit. Drums are probably rusty. Something up. Let's pick up that dumpster. Now I can't get too carried away. I just noticed something. This hose right here is supposed to be in that pulley. It's come out of there. It's pretty tight. I don't know exactly how I'm going to have to address that, but that kicks in on the second stage. You'll see when I raise it. See if we can get you out there. Hydraulics are kind of touchy. And I've got a hydraulic leak from that seal right there. I'm really hoping that will, maybe it was just dry and it'll kind of work back in, but it's usually not the case. It's a happy thought though. Yeah, I wish I could get that to loosen up. I'd just go ahead and put that back on there. It really drives pretty good. It actually does a lot better than I thought it would. Slows down pretty good on its own. You probably can't tell it on the camera, but this is a slight downhill. I think those brakes may be dragging just a hair, but I think they're getting better. All right. Very not bad. I'm very pleased with that. Still needs a few odds and ends. The seat is all over the place. It slides this way too. Still got to bolt the floor in. I got to do something more permanent with the blow-by tube because the fumes are horrendous and I'm getting intoxicated, as a matter of fact. But pleasantly surprised that the brakes work. Now this isn't a power brake model, and none of my other none of my other forklifts have power brakes either. But man, this one, the brakes are so much more touchy than any of my other forklifts. So the horn doesn't work very well. So that's pretty cool because it's a major undertaking to fix brakes on one of these. The master cylinder is not too bad, but if it's a wheel cylinder, help us all. Fix the hydraulic hose, fix the lights, and probably change the filters. The fluids look really good. I'm going to change all the filters, probably change the engine oil, and start using it, see how it works. The next thing to address is going to end up being that hydraulic seal, and because that cylinder leak is pretty excessive. I had that happen on my Alice lift one time after it had set up for a long time, and it kind of worked back in, and it didn't leak very bad after that. And I'm kind of hoping that's the case here, but I can't stand leaks, so I'll probably end up fixing that cylinder, just rebuilding it. But overall, I can't complain. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to try to make sure it's reliable enough for the church to use it, and I've got plenty of time to do that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with my investment, and we're just going to start using it and see how it works out.
That don't make any sense.
The only thing I can think is maybe we fouled them.
Yep.
You
what you just said on
It wasn't on then.
Oh, you're still 5 minutes.